lot is going on, and it's very important that you take care. As you know, the current outbreak of the Ebola epidemic, it's very important that you take care of all your movements, the people you meet, and of course how you handle yourself out there. And don't forget to check us out on channel 394 Gold TV, channel 372 DSTV, and as you'll be in position to catch us at whatever part of the region you will be at as we bring you these business updates on Zabu. At the same time, as made your trading experience much more easier as you just dial *292# as you'll be in position to purchase stocks, and that's on Altex. And the markets open at exactly 8:15 a.m. and they close at exactly 3:15. That's p.m. all East African time. Do something new and yourself a side income. And you know, you can purchase these stocks at whatever part of the country, and you can get back, you can sell your stocks or buy stocks at any given time. Now, heading straight to the news recap, I will start with the East African community eyeing a single currency. According to a report, it is projected that by 2024, this will be executed. Let's have the details. I'll be returning with the highlights.
The East African Community member states are in the process of harmonizing critical policies and putting in place the requisite institutions to attain a single currency for the region by 2024, as outlined in the East African Community Monetary Union Protocol. The first Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for East African Community Affairs, Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, stated that the East African Community is awaiting a decision on which member state will host the monetary institution which will become the East African Central Bank.
The community to have a common currency by 2024, but before we do that, we shall need to establish the East African Monetary Institute, which will now later transform into the East African Central Bank. We have had applications from 4 of the partner states, and we're waiting for a decision to be taken as to which state will house the Monetary Institute, which will then become the East African Central Bank and work towards the common currency by 2024.
The adoption of a single currency is anticipated to decrease costs associated with currency exchange transactions and the volatility of the exchange rates in the cross-border trade. The banking regulators, through the East African Community Affairs Committee, noted that while significant progress has been made towards the realization of a monetary union, several challenges could still impede timely implementation of its protocol. During the 3-day East African Court of Justice Judicial Conference's opening ceremony, Honorable Kadaga noted that the East African Community's bloc membership has increased by leaps and bounds, particularly in the recent admission of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, resulting in an overall population of about 300 million people. According to officials, methods to deal with the treaty violations are now being developed as a way to work on the competence of the court.
We are supposed to establish the Trade Regimes Committee within the community, which will address breaches of the treaty. It has not been set up, but at the next council in November, it's one of the things we are going to discuss and establish. It's long overdue.
We do not have such a very big problem, but if partner states have already raised such concerns, it is good for the community to come and have a debate on these issues of concern. Thank you so much.
Tomorrow, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda, is anticipated to attend the judicial conference which is being held under the topic Transforming Access to Justice in the East African Community. Bedson.
According to the first Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for East African Community Affairs, that's Rebecca Kadaga, the East African Court of Justice has been instrumental in advancing, that's the integration of the East African community. And also she added that by 2024, the East African community will have a single currency. All right. And away from that, now let's head straight to agroecology and food security. As we know that about 70% of the nation's economy, or what we can say that 70% of its gross domestic product comes from agriculture, and the sector has seen numerous improvements such as adoption of agroecology, and it has resulted in a competitive and a profitable and socially beneficial food system. And of course, this supports food security, nutrition, and livelihood. Let's have the details.
Agroecology helps fight food insecurity as it offers diversity and sustainability of seed security and sovereignty for the other key factors in food production. It also brings guidance and support in the ecosystem for inclusiveness, enhanced livelihoods, production, and environmental sustainability.
We are building momentum and fronting agroecology for so many reasons. Why? Because of diversity. Agroecology has principles. So we are looking at how do we fight food insecurity in the country. And we cannot talk about food security if you are not seed secure. And that also relates to food sovereignty. And you cannot talk about food sovereignty if you're not seed sovereignty. There's no seed sovereignty in the country. Seed sovereignty in the terms of that people have, or the farmers have the right to the seed they want. You know, they have the power to choose the kind of seed and the kind of food systems they want to have. So agroecology offers these benefits right from diversity. Okay, when you look at the different agricultural principles and approaches that are employed, they help us to re-emphasize the aspect of environmental conservation, natural resource management. And in two ways, this helps in helping us to adapt to the changes that the climate change has come about with. Because when you look at the different practices that agroecology is promoting, these will help in the conservation of our natural resources. They will help in the conservation of the natural habitats, the entire ecosystems for which we derive our livelihoods. Mark you, we are a country that is dependent on agriculture. And for that matter, over 80% of the entire population, that's where they derive their livelihood. The most unfortunate bit of it, this agriculture is rain dependent. Okay? So that means without rain, for sufficient rains, we cannot have food to be produced. Now we are looking at agroecology coming in as a solution to offer sustainable solutions.
It makes a significant contribution to food security by fostering environmental preservation and a large-scale production of agricultural products, since it combines crop cultivation with livestock keeping. Additionally, this will support the argument for agriculture that enhances food production and economic value by integrating with nature.
By so doing, we don't degrade the environment. You use organic fertilizers, we use organic methods of pest and disease control, but also in agroecology, we encourage production of a variety of foodstuffs, vegetables of different types, starchy foods of different types like maize, sweet potatoes, cassava, and so on and so forth. We also encourage production of trees that should be multi-purpose. Some are fruit trees, but they can also provide fuel wood, they can also provide fodder, and you can also use them, some of them, the poles, for roofing or for making structures or for staking crops. And we also encourage integration of those trees with the crops that I have mentioned, but also with the livestock, rearing of livestock. Other aspect of contributing to food security is through value addition. When a farmer produces maize, for example, he is free and at liberty to eat the fresh maize. But when the maize dries, we encourage farmers as much as possible to process it into flour. The flour can be sold at a higher price, maybe 2.5 times the price of seed, dry seed. But also that flour, in addition to bringing in a lot of income, can be stored so that even if it is not season for harvesting maize, the flour can last, or the dry seeds can last.
Ugandans must make use of the existing resources to increase food production, because the nation has fertile soils, which leads to food production, and not get caught in the wave of the GMOs that will take us back to depending the Western world for our foods.
We need to reorganize ourselves, identify the foods we have around and utilize them properly, utilize them optimally. before we go into GMOs.
Uganda has enough resources to fight food insecurities. However, we should adopt agroecological systems because they are sustainable and environmental friendly.
And now that's regarding agroecology, which is an integrated approach that simultaneously, of course, applies ecological and social concepts, accompanied with the principles to the design and management of food and agricultural systems. It's very a key aspect, more so in such a time when the global nations are really trying to put the emphasis regarding food security. That is very key for Uganda to adapt at such an early stage right there. Okay, and away from that, let's head straight to the Uganda Revenue Authority as the Uganda Revenue Authority reviews its performance report. Let's have the details.
It is that time of the year again when the Uganda Revenue Authority has the opportunity to update the taxpayers with its quarterly report. Its target for the net revenue collection for financial year 2022-2023 is 25.550 trillion shillings. From July to September, the net revenue collections were 5,418 billion.60 million, exceeding the 5,132 billion.17 million target and creating a 286.44 billion surplus. The pay-as-you-earn surplus is linked to the rise in the wage bill observed by the businesses whose pay-as-you-earn tax increased as a result of more employees. Reduced budget releases for the various government agencies for Q1 are partially to blame for the shortfall in the withholding tax because this prevents them from paying some of their suppliers.
Payee registered a surplus which is attributed to the growth of wage bills of some of the companies that contribute to payee. Then the increase in domestic taxes can also be attributed to the operational teams, intensive focused field activities, stakeholder management, and improved tax compliance support, growing our tax to GDP as a minimum by 0.5%. But last year, our tax to GDP grew by 1%, and we hope that we can maintain a faster pace so that quickly we can get to 18 or 20%.
Reviewing tax exemptions and cost benefits, which have been a significant negative impact on the GDP of the nation, was one of the major topics covered.
We have issues that people are talking about on exemptions. I think we didn't talk about them, but that's a big issue. 2 percentage points of GDP is estimated to be lost through exemptions. So we have had a tax exemption rationalization plan looking at all these exemptions. We are doing a cost-benefit analysis, and we'll be recommending those tax exemptions that we see are not of any value, but they are tax eroding. Some of them may be good to promote investments or for social sectors, but there are some others that we are going to be looking at that we think that we should be eliminating. So
from the Ministry of Finance is to now improvise on the tax exemption rationalization plan. Now, if that plan is there, it will reduce on the fixed cost structure of an MSME to survive, so that they can now move the saved money from taxes into funding the loan obligations, funding the pay-as-you-earn, funding all the other obligations, so that their profitability is preserved for them to survive. If we don't do that, chances that they might survive might be very slim, as you know. In fact, if you go to UBOS, the people who are collecting statistics on taxes, on companies, you will find that they have reduced, there's a reduced number of people filing the same as URSB, because most businesses have run out of cash liquidity to meet their day-to-day obligations.
Additionally, the high inflation has increased the cost of conducting businesses, leading to high input costs. It has increased from 6.8% in June 2022 to 10% by the end of September 2022, making it difficult for SMEs to remain in business.
Most of these people got loans out of lockdown because they could not survive. And when they got loans, the banks did not waive those loans, they just restructured them. They deferred the payments. The obligations never went away, so very many people are actually struggling because the costs were simply deferred. Now, when the costs were deferred, and then they met with the imported inflation out of the war of Ukraine, and then they also met, they reduced expenditure by the public because nobody had money, they were not making money, some people were laid off. All those catapulted into a shrinking economy. There is a shrinkage of our economy. And when the economy is shrinking, the tax base is reducing. So the taxman will only tax what is available to be taxed.
The growth in the dry import value of cargo, which climbed by 28.42%, and the increase in fuel imports, which increased by 88.41 million litres compared to the same time of the previous financial years, are primary highlights and the reasons for the performance of the customs revenue.
As the government drafts its plans and aspirations to develop that's the country Uganda and deliver services to the citizens, of course the responsibility of sourcing the funding for these plans lies within the Uganda Revenue Authority, as the Uganda Revenue Authority is reviewing the first performance, the performance of the first quarter that's of the financial year 2022-2023. All right. Now, away from that, let's wind up the recap as we look at embracing technology. As a way of embracing technology in Uganda, the Rural Communications Development Fund, together with Uganda Communications Commissions, have established Uganda Communications Universal Services Fund. Of course, the fund is expected to give a distinctive identity that will enable to facilitate and promote the deployment of information communication technology in the unserved and undeserved parts of the country. Let's have the details.
Rural Communication Development Fund, like the name suggests, it was premised on a thinking that ICT gaps would be between urban areas and rural areas, when actually, when you look at the broad ICT gaps, you can find them between gender, you can find them between ages, you can find them even within the urban areas.
Affordability needs to be at the center of the digital transition as we continue to push for digital migration and increased connection within Uganda. Without connectivity and better accessibility, the usage of mobile phones and other digital infrastructure would not rise. According to experts, there has been an increase in the ownership of mobile phones, where 16.8% of people now have them, with 9.7% living in rural areas and 34.3% in urban areas. However, the majority of these people cannot use their phones because of lack of electricity and lack of funding for the industry.
Vision 2040 and what it says in as far as the ICT is concerned, it's one of the core pillars in as far as government is concerned in actually addressing issues of national development. Is one of those core pillars. However, in the National Development Plan, there are challenges which were highlighted very well. I think also it resonates well with what Dr. Tusu highlighted as well, in terms of low usage of some of the ICTs that we have, and therefore low usage will translate definitely to quite a lot in terms of economy. If we're not able to use what is there, then we might not be able to achieve what we want from all the various sectors. That said, the NDP also recognizes a low funding in the sector, much as it is known as one of those enablers for the entire economy, but it also attracts very low funding. And therefore, from the minister's perspective, we're actually very happy in as far as the intervention which has been undertaken through RCDF, and we hope to see more extension in as far as the UCSAF is concerned. But that said, another key question that is still there is how best can we, as a digital transformation program, actually use whatever resources we have to implement most of the aspiration in the digital transformation program. How best can we leapfrog in as far as addressing the digital divide, which has been already pointed out?
Somebody is going to build a road here. This is UNRA. Next day, somebody will come and cut that road to lay a water pipe. The other day, somebody will cut it to lay maybe an optical fiber, whatever. What we need to have this infrastructure is to bring everything under one umbrella. Because if for each road, for example, that is being built, we put alongside the ducts to carry all the services, then we'd have the infrastructure going everywhere, wherever a road goes. If the power lines, wherever they go, we have optical fiber, then we'd have this infrastructure everywhere. So we don't have the infrastructure yet, but we can have it very easily if I've got good collaboration and a good plan.
According to the Digital 2022 Global Overview Report, 13.92 million people in Uganda had access to the internet as of January 2022, making up 29.1% of the country's total population. However, according to analysts, internet costs continue to be expensive.
It's not a secret that the cost of telecommunication services in Uganda is one of the highest in the region when you compare to our incomes. Okay? So we always compare cost to income. So if somebody says comes from UK, they'll say that this small yellow bananas, they say it's only 1,000 shillings, 2,000. They say it's less than $1, but in the US it is maybe $15. So they say that it is cheap compared to their income. But if my income is 1,000 shillings a day, then that is expensive. So compared to the income of the poorer sections of our community in Uganda, and that's the majority, they cannot really afford internet.
Like the cost of making a call, like the cost of data. In Uganda, we know very well, because one of the inhibiting factors has been the cost of data. But at one time, the cost of data, 1 megabits per second per month, used to cost $2,000. Today, it has come down to $70. We are pushing it down. It will even reach $40 per minute. You've seen yourself, practically. The cost of data is going down. Even now with 1,000, you can get some data for a whole day.
The Rural Communication Development Fund rebranding will encourage the use of ICT in the neglected and unserved regions of the nations. Ugandans are encouraged to use smartphones.
Connect yourself to the international web. That's where knowledge is. That's where buying and selling is. That's where service delivery is. Don't be left behind on this.
Goal 9 of the 17 Sustainable Goals intends to significantly increase access to ICT and aspire to provide universal and inexpensive access to the internet in least developed countries by 2024, which can be accomplished by lowering internet costs and equipping people in rural regions.
We've come to the end of your business report this morning, as we have been reviewing the business stories that are making headlines in the world of business. And now let's get into a short commercial break. SMB returns.